have in fact been announced. And so that list, I believe we've already shared it, of course, right here at the Radio Caribbean International, but not at the lunchroom. So just very quickly, for those of you who are going to be heading to the Cultural Center next week, Sunday, the 18 Calypsonians who will be competing. You've got Ash. Is it? Yeah, Asha? Asha out of the Takeover 10 Soca Village. Blaze coming from the KPT, Kaiso Pros tent. Bingo, as well as Desral and Educator coming out of Fire 1. Gamshen, I've got that one right. Gumption, coming out of South Calypso tent. Her Black from TOT. Cacao, or King Cacao, if you so prefer, from the South Calypso tent. Minel also coming up and making that list for the semi-finalists for next week, Sunday. Also, Micah, and that is coming out of TOT. The Mighty Sizzler from Fire 1. Oshun from the South Calypso tent. Cupid from TOT. Queen Yards, I think we were playing her just a little while ago, from the South Calypso tent. Solage from Fire 1. Taker out of TOT. TC Brown from KPT. And T. Caro out of the TOT Soca Village. And that is, in fact, the lineup out of which 9 individuals will be selected, will be chosen next week. On Sunday, the 23rd. And, of course, they will be heading up against the defending Soca Monarch, the defending Calypso Monarch, and of course that is Mr. T Blacks. And so definitely something to take in next weekend on the 23rd. That would not prevent you from enjoying any of your cricket. That is on, of course, from tonight when we're going to be seeing West Indies heading across to play Afghanistan, the last match within that Group C, within which the West Indies finds itself, along with New Zealand and as well Uganda and Papua New Guinea. And we are currently ranked second in the group on the basis of, I think, Afghanistan having a slightly higher run rate than us. So it'll be a very interesting match indeed, and starting off at 8:30 at the relatively brand new Darren Sammy National Cricket Ground as a result of a significant amount of work that has been done to bring that facility to all its splendor. A lot of effort you could observe once you get there, or maybe take a drive around the facility. Seems to have been made to beautify the facility. In the first instance, I guess the whole plan was to try to get it up and running when it was established back in the early 2000s. And yes, it was certainly a very, very attractive ground, but without a doubt, some much needed improvements have been made to the look and feel of the facility. The introduction of a lovely mural. I believe that's by our brilliant muralist Saki from Choiseul. I think you can tell his style, adorning the wall north of the media center. And of course, that would be the first thing, one of the first things that you would see coming down that Beausejour promenade. Also, even the lighting improvements there in terms of the signage of Darren Sammy Cricket Ground, the name of it being given some great prominence there. But of course, new lighting, certainly improving that, as well as, of course, electronic scoreboards and lots of replay screens and Of course, the going around the field as well. Lots of lighting that adds to the overall display of the event. Of course, that's all very important. But what would certainly make a great difference for the crowd, what would make a great difference to the game and the enjoyment of the game would be to ensure that there is, in fact, a very large crowd out tonight. One would like to believe that there's only going to be standing room available at this point, of course, because it is West Indies playing tonight, and certainly a very, very good opportunity. Of course, if they win, they've already guaranteed their spot, regardless at this point. So I suppose they would be playing for bragging rights to ensure that they can, in fact, get in there at the top of the group. Might help in terms of the points going in the tournament and all of that. You never know. These things tend to have some value going in. But of course, the biggest value would certainly be in terms of the overall hype of a West Indies win tonight, which should buoy them and bolster them very well for Wednesday night. And of course, it is confirmed that West Indies will be playing up against England. And of course, the English were looking perhaps a little bit nervous depending on the outcome of the weekend's match, Scotland versus Australia. And there were quite a lot of St. Lucians who seemingly decided to be backing Scotland in that tournament. But of course, everybody loves the underdog. Everybody loves a good story. Everybody was looking for perhaps another upset of the tournament if, in fact, England would have been knocked out by a victorious Scotland. And they played pretty well, one has to say. Kudos to them. And they went right down to the last over. And in fact, I think England only won with about 2 balls to go. So definitely, sorry, Australia only won with 2 balls to go. And that meant that England and Australia are both heading into the Super 8, which of course is perhaps good news for not just the English team. Of course, they would be very thankful for that. But the fact that they're not going home is also good news for the economics of the ICC Cricket World Cup. England's Barmy Army has been very active in terms of traveling the world for a very long time, and is part of that expectation of coming into the sun and enjoying cricket in the Caribbean and the West Indies. Has been certainly a very long tradition, and it certainly does make a good impact on the hotels and the bed and breakfasts and the Airbnbs and the villa rentals, and of course all those who support it. The restaurants and the whole tourism sector certainly can benefit tremendously, and that's the whole point, really, in terms of the amount of investment that governments will make in sporting facilities. It's not just about the bragging rights. Certainly, it does have a major impact on the economy through the spending that is coming out of that. And of course, that's good news because in a very interesting way, we've just come through a pretty successful St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival in terms of good numbers coming in, and the tourism numbers thus far for the year 2024 have in fact exceeded the figures of 2019. Now 2019 prior to has thus far overall has been the peak year in terms of visitor arrivals. Of course, a relatively important metric that is used to determine how well things are going with our tourism sector. Not the only metric, of course, but one that gives some sense of where things are going. And in terms of stopover arrivals, that peaked in 2019. Of course, we know we had COVID in 2020, and that recovery period through 2021 and 2022, 2023. It looks like we've finally gotten to a point in 2024 where we have, in fact, begun to exceed those 2019 figures, which, in fact, is a little better than what was originally suggested. In fact, at one point, the belief was that things would not actually rebound up until 2026. So there's been a fairly strong rebound in tourism, and of course a lot of interest in property development as well, because that's one of our major constraints. The lack of hotel accommodation, of room accommodation, guest accommodation, and so of course this is really important. So having these types of events certainly does help in terms of keeping the sector buoyant, and of course that period between jazz and now carnival is being filled up pretty tremendously by this present Cricket World Cup. Of course, visitors aren't only coming from the UK; they're coming from many parts of the world. There were some Sri Lankans out and about last night as well. And of course, the nature of cricket is that they've got a lot of support in the United States of America. The US has sizable diasporas from India, from Pakistan, including as well places like Sri Lanka. And given the fact that it's pretty close to the West Indies, that is also a definite plus, a definite bonus in terms of our tourism sector. So, of course, it's good for the entire region. Saw some pretty good images coming out of Arnesvale. They have entered the mix. That is St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and rightfully so, of course. They've invested a tremendous amount of money into that new Argyle International Airport. Secured an international airport with a runway long enough to accommodate wide-body aircraft, and has now placed St. Vincent into a position now where they can be attracting significant tourism investment and numbers. A lot of their tourism, of course, was more centered about the Grenadines. Islands like Canouan, for instance, played home to raffles properties and golf courses and lots of yachting interests in the Grenadines. But in terms of individuals coming and staying over in St. Vincent, that has certainly been buoyed by some actions in that country, now a neighboring island of St. Vincent. They've just recently, in fact, opened a sandals property, formerly Bucament Bay, in the Layo area. It therefore means that that property will, of course, be bringing a fair number of visitors to that island. And, of course, the decision of also heading to open up Arnesvale, expanding Arnesvale for cricket. That ground has been there for a while, but a tremendous amount of resources being put into it to bring it up to a standard for international cricket. And I think it's potentially going to be one of the most picturesque grounds in the world. There are some very clear grounds which people love to see because of the backdrop. The maybe it could be the mountains and or various scenery around that really define grounds. One of them, for instance, is that of the grounds in the South Island of New Zealand in Queenstown. very, very, very attractive with the fjords and the very, very high mountain backdrops, and it creates a very picturesque scene against which you actually see cricket being played. And with Honorsvale, it is right on the Caribbean Sea. It's right along the coastline. It is a fantastic location, at least in terms of its that aspect of it, the picturesque nature of it, and the backdrop of some of the Grenadine Islands in the distance, in Beckway. It certainly does make for a fantastic venue for cricket in the future. Boseju has some of it, of course, Darren Sammy Cricket Ground, in terms of its proximity to the Toussaint along the Atlantic coast of St. Lucia. But of course, we're set back a little bit from that coastline. Honorsvale is finding itself right there, right up against the coast, and I think that is certainly going to make it for a one of the grounds that people will certainly be looking to enjoy cricket coming from in the Caribbean. It's one of those things that we definitely have to think about because, and we've seen it even in the matter of our carnival right here in St. Lucia. When you hear about feedback from a lot of visitors who may be coming in for carnival and who are looking at it, one of the defining aspects are your venues. How attractive are the venues for your various events? And that's a major selling point when it comes to St. Lucia. And it's something that you've got to think of. In fact, definitely within, of course, all that conversation that's been happening recently regarding Pigeon Island and jazz, the Pigeon Island National Landmark is a defining aspect of the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival because of the aesthetic value that the venue adds. Many countries have tried to replicate it. Barbados, for instance, has been trying to, well, they have their, those types of festivals. There's one, Reggae on the Hill, I think it is, and their jazz festival. It was being held up at Farley Hill, which is in somewhat to the far north of Barbados, but still not the same. You don't have that closeness to the sea and the breeze that's coming in. Not to say this, of course, it's still a very attractive area, lovely vegetation and whatnot, but it is not the same in terms of that aspect of the experience that a visitor gets. And so even when we look at the route for the parade, for the carnival parade, that's also a very important aspect in terms of the visual impact. And of course, our route has changed over the years, and the taking in of the waterfront aspect of the parade route along the John Compton Highway, that certainly is perhaps one of the defining periods for the person, the patron, the reveler for Carnival, because you've got that waterfront backdrop, you've got vessels, boats coming alongside, catamarans coming alongside and enjoying that aspect. So it definitely defines itself fairly different from what you would get, say, in even a Rio de Janeiro or a Port of Spain. It really is a very different experience. Barbados has a little bit of it on Spring Garden, and of course perhaps also that of on the Carenage in St. George's, Grenada. You've got a bit of that, of course, in terms of the carnival routes. But that's something to definitely think about when we're thinking about the experience. I mean, I know, for instance, there's been a sort of a shift away from the city of Castries with respect to the carnival routes. I personally think that it's a very good experience if, in fact, we do have some of that in there in terms of the visual experience of being in the city, and it definitely adds to the charm and the flair of the experience as well. So let's hope that we don't ever have a situation where it's completely removed from the city. I think that would take away from the whole aspect of Carnival. And of course, it's important that it's in the city from the perspective of the not really the revelers necessarily, but the viewers, the individuals who line the streets and who want to actually have this type of experience as well. You don't quite get that in the section along the Castries Grosley Highway between Shock and VG. It's a pretty quiet, sterile space, which may lend itself to why there's a need to create opportunities and visual areas such as the wall and all of that comes with Carnival along those routes. So in all of these things, the beauty of the place, the spectacle of the space, the aesthetics matters quite a bit. That's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll take in our weather report and then take in some calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grosley Lanes, and Slack Street in Viewfort. Telephone number 453-7939.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And this is the latest weather report for today, 17th June 2024. That is as of noon. And the forecaster is Lemuel O'Shaughnessy. Weather at Urinora Airport is fair. Weather at GFL Charles Airport is fair. Temperature at Urinora Airport is 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Last night's minimum temperature at Urinora Airport was 27 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Relative humidity at Urinora Airport is 69%. The wind at Urinora Airport is blowing from the east at 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. Rainfall in the 24-hour period that ended at 8 a.m. today. Urinora Airport, nil. GFL Charles Airport, nil. Total rainfall for the month of June thus far at Urinora Airport, 58.1 millimeters. At GFL Charles Airport, 21.8 millimeters. Sunset today, 6:33 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow, 5:36 a.m. Forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east and east-southeast near 16 miles per hour or 26 kilometers per hour. Weather fair skies becoming cloudy at times with some scattered showers which may be heavy and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. Forecast for seas in a 25-mile or 40-kilometer radius from St. Lucia. Tides for Castries Harbor high at 1:17 p.m., low at 5:48 p.m. Tides for Viewfort Bay high at 2:24 p.m., low at 7:15 p.m. Sea is a slight with waves of 2 to 4 feet or 0.6 to 1.2 meters. Forecast for the Les Antilles for fair skies becoming cloudy at times with scattered showers, which may be heavy in some locations and isolated thunderstorms. Tropical weather outlook. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate light to moderate easterly winds across the eastern Caribbean over the next couple of days. A tropical wave is expected to cause some cloudiness with showers and isolated thunderstorms over the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. Another tropical wave located over the eastern tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. And that there is the latest weather report for today's 17th June 2024. We say thank you to our forecaster, Limwell O'Shaughnessy.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Right up on your bumper, baby.
Color Me Red. Da yours, baby. At the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground from 8 p.m. Friday, July 12th. Early bird tickets are $125. Regular tickets $140. And for the ultimate VIP experience, you pay only $425. Grab your tickets now at Radio Caribbean International, Steve's Barbershop, all the Cell outlets, TM Antoine Partners, and Red Team members. Color Me Red. Da yours, baby.
She tell me that yours, baby. Take that, that yours, honey. Talk back, that yours, baby.
Click or tap. Order now and get that. Everything in stock, we have that. From the website, you can go check that. Rebar, fencing, roofing, PRC windows, Versa framing. Well stock for your buildings. Caribbean Metals is now with the e-commerce. Just one click, you can get it quick. Place your orders online and don't stick. Friendly website at your fingertips. No need to come in store to get equipped. That's right, you can get it quick. Hassle-free, no need to worry. Ordering is simple like ABC. Visit our website today, you see www.caribbeanmetalslimited.com. That's www.caribbeanmetalslimited.com.
Celebrate June Dairy Month at Massey Stores. Get ready for incredible savings of up to 30% off on all your favorite dairy products. From creamy cheeses to yogurts, ice cream, and more. Every week, new products are revealed, so don't miss out on June Dairy Month. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and our WhatsApp channel to see what's on special every week during June Dairy Month. Remember to swipe your Massey card for savings. Promotion ends June 30th.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Now, of course, if you want to call in, tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also message in to WhatsApp or call in to 724-0008. Let's go to the phone lines at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
How are you doing, sir?
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
And yours, your family?
Very blessed. Thanks for asking.
Everybody all right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, okay. What about the elder man that usually calls you? He's okay, you know? You're in touch with him, no?
He did call in, I think, about, last week? Yeah, he did. He did mention that he was not actually very well, but he's recovered.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's Mr. Francis, I believe is his name. Yes.
You must always check on your valued callers, you know.
Yes, indeed. I need to get your number. Although I know where to get you, if anything.
Yeah, well,
regardless.
I didn't say that from me. I didn't say that on my behalf, you know.
Yes, indeed.
You dump on me right away.
Well, you mentioned it. Yes. Go ahead, though, caller, please.
You know, the developments in America are really frightening, you know, Calixte.
You're talking about the political developments?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The whole environment. You know, this these guys released a 900-page document of the future of America, how they see America, That is the conservatives, the shakers and makers behind the scene.
Okay.
The high men in conservative. People like Ben Carson, there's a black man in that, and Thomas, Judge Thomas, all and a lot of
Clarence Thomas.
You know what I'm saying? And these guys have everything well planned, my brother. The emergence of what's his name, Trump, is not an accident, That is not by accident, Trump didn't decide where he take, Trump could play the role as the poster boy, and that's what they have him doing there.
Right.
But you see, the distraction he has created is that everything seems to be focused, especially from the opposing party, on buying him from presidency. Instead, in effect, checking what these people up to, because, all the time they say they cannot understand. It's beyond comprehension how people who are elected to govern them, constantly trying to make sense of Trump, or the foolishness Trump gotten on. But it's not that. The whole idea is that they need him there to consolidate, the philosophy. They need to first win elections.
That's right.
Yeah. But if he loses again, the whole thing doesn't go away, Calixte.
They'll have to regroup.
No, but it doesn't go away. You have so many people on board, and in this kind of strategized, kind of thing, environment, they write 900-page document, and the Democrats have been distracted in a sense that all they're doing is looking at stopping Trump at the polls, and they themselves don't have a coordinated plan alternative to what the people have. That's where that even though they win elections, and look at they're depending on a fragile old man, elder man. If he happened to win the elections, that's just for a season. The Democrats feel, they're so disparate and disjointed in their whole philosophy that they cannot really come together. Like,
Well, I don't know if that there is a philosophy, is there? I'm not sure.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
That's where you have to respect the others. You might find it weird what they're thinking of, because these people planning on Christianizing education, for example. That means indoctrination of Christianity in your education system. And that might sound good to some people, because you often hear people say, let me bring back prayers and Christ in school if we bring back Christ. But what they need to understand is, what brand of Christianity? Whose interpretation? You understand? You're going to impose. That we must stop and think about that, because they know a lot of things sound attractive even to somebody who may not like the excesses of Trump and so on. But they see themselves as Christians, and they would like to restore the country, or have it as a Christian nation, and also to counter the Islamic kind of the universality of the Islamic thing as far as the Islamic countries are concerned. You could change governments there, but you don't change. You cannot change. You could try and introduce the democracy in certain, as they have done, but you cannot change that basic philosophy of the people, Islamic. So they're trying to get that, and they feel they could do that, succeed over a period of time. With America, as perhaps the beacon of Eurocentric Christianity. You know what I mean? Like the template, which so-called Christian countries, mainly in the West, would take a page from the book, and even Christian countries in like Brazil and a lot of different parts of the world,
right?
Korea, a lot of places, to replicate their kind of thing, and intertwine it with the education system. That's where it becomes real dangerous. That means to aspire to higher learning, education, you have to abide by their principles. And this is happening already, Calixte?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, it is certainly happening.
Yeah.
It's an interesting situation because, as you're saying, Europe has gone through this phase, this cultural shift. And one can say, for instance, and they've been saying it for quite a while, that when you look at the society in Europe, religion, the centrality of religion is no longer there. In fact, people have said that they've lost religion in Europe. It's there's where you look at so many places where they have to now be, basically selling off churches, the buildings that is, and the properties of former convents or monasteries or what have you. And it's been dying for a pretty long time. So they would say the majority of Europe is no longer Christian. And
you would say that?
Well, it's in terms of the trends, the demographic trends is what we've been seeing, yeah. And so when you now have this move of new immigration coming from North Africa in particular.
Remember that these people are driven by right-wing fascists.
Well, the
growing trend of countries electing these people.
So you're now seeing in this in that last election, for instance, and right now with the rise of Meloni in Italy, and we'll see what happens in France soon enough.
I'm happy you mentioned Italy first because Mussolini was a Christian, eh?
Well,
Quote,
yes,
unquote.
yes, and
the Pope who blessed the arms to go and destroy Ethiopia. He was the head Christian.
Yeah, so exactly, in the 1930s and 40s.
That's just the words and names when you say they're not Christian, but these people are essentially what they profess all these years. And if even people ain't going to church again, in other words, Europe is comforting itself that the right is taking over. The right taking over in European politics. Look at Macron called elections fast so that,
Right, exactly.
Because he realized what was going on. He feel, the whole dynamic. So they don't have to have pretensions to being that the whole Christian thing. Is so important in what they're doing. But America is realizing that higher, like the whole thrust of democracy is based a lot on education, where people realize that you must have, your society must be built on people have the rights and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So they're going to attack them there. So there's no need for the Europeans to do that. The Europeans, in other words, they could sell out their churches. That is not an important factor to them.
Well, the
bottom line is that these countries going into what you call it, a conservative kind
Yes.
of mindset.
They're going into a more conservative period. I mean, you're seeing it in Europe. You're seeing what we saw what happened with Trump, and of course, I think Trump was such a divisive figure that I suppose he got a lot of people to go against him. But and this time now, because the Democrats have not probably been able to hold out sufficiently with respect to that move that
They have
towards
never
the right.
been able. They are not able to show an alternative, which they're rallying around.
Right.
No, I'm not talking about a personality. Huh?
Yes, I get you what you're saying.
Philosophy.
Yes.
They are not able to show that.
Yeah.
You understand? And this is where this thing, is like it come like they surrender, so because they fell for the debate. Trump was just debate to distract them. Everything has been Trump for the last 6-7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the real issue was these things we're talking about and they should be doing that, house
Right.
cleaning among themselves and seeing how they could defend the democracy they claim they defend so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, it's questionable because when you see what gains a lot of people who have been Democrats supporting them for all these years, some of them haven't reached the requisite gains in supporting that party.
Exactly. That is very true.
You understand?
Yep.
So,
Yep. And I think that is a major issue even in Europe too. They were saying that even in the places, there are some places that buck the tide of the right wing. In particular, they pointed out Scandinavia, countries like Denmark, Sweden, and Finland, and they were saying that they actually the left parties, the left, the Social Democrats, they actually performed pretty well. The Greens, they performed fairly well in the last EU elections, but they were saying that in those countries, however, they've got very good politicians, right? And I think that's a message that the Democrats have to take on too. That you can't just take for granted, that people will just vote for you against Trump, right? They want to vote for you because you've got to be able to put forward something which they have confidence in. And they were also pointing out that these left parties have in fact been able to take certain actions to address some of the concerns that the right wing is claiming they're going to come to address. So there has been some pretty good success in that regard.
These people you talk about, these people who, where the left wing doing good, these people don't have a tradition like the classical colonialists, like the Spains,
No.
the French, the
No.
British.
No, you're right.
The Germans and this kind of people,
Right.
You understand? They're not carrying that baggage.
They're not carrying as much baggage as those, certainly, the Western Europeans. Yes.
Yeah.
So it is different. Although, even in Sweden, they're saying that there's a lot of immigration and it's into Sweden. In fact, to the point where I think they're saying that Islam might very well become the majority, the leading, the largest religious group within Sweden in the not too distant future. So you are seeing the pressures of immigration in some of these countries, but you are right that the kind of visceral division that you have, like in a place like France, for instance, where you look at the immigrant populations there, there's a lot of disdain towards the national government because of the history of colonialism.
Yes, a lot of them still in Africa.
Yes.
And different parts of the world.
Yes.
They have vested interests, unlike a Sweden.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That is very correct. So
anyway, I mean, it's frightening, man. It's frightening the way, because we know, we just have to be pragmatic there, you know.
No, there are very real implications for us too, because
Of course.
not just. I mean, look at we're trying hard with things like the citizenship by investment program, right? The sale of passports, and the biggest selling point for our passport is that we can have visa-free access to the United Kingdom and the Schengen countries in Europe. And if these countries are moving more to the right, you know, and the European Union is moving more to the right, there could quite possibly be a lot of pressure being brought to bear on these programs.
What governance, what form of thing governs, philosophy govern in America? We still need the tourists to come in.
That's right. That's
You
right.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
So if they could play hardball, they entrench, let's imagine, and their philosophy gaining traction and momentum before they do it education. You don't think the time, there'll come a time where they tell you, they watch your own education system and tell you, yeah, well, no, we can't support you if you continue letting non-Christians, you know, access to education just like Christians, you know. That's where they'll wield their power.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and we tend to feel, well, they will not go so low.
Yeah.
But
Well,
no.
we have seen the implications of these worldwide programs on ourselves. I think one of them,
Of
which
course.
we had, family planning, for example, is one of them. Right?
Exactly.
Look at our birth rate right now. It's one of the lowest in the world, right?
They drove us into that.
And it has real implications right now for our economy moving forward.
All right, you see how they drove us into that?
Yep.
So it's not as if that discussion is above our head. That debate is not necessary. And all we need to talk about is what we're doing about inflation, what we're doing about this, and what we're doing about that. But we need to seriously analyze what is going on and project what is going to be the implications for our country.
Yeah, we saw it quite recently with the last the treaty that was taking over from the Lomé Cotonou agreement, so the new ACP treaty. And I don't know if you were following, but there were a number of countries that were saying that they're not going to sign on because there were real concerns about some of the provisions regarding things like human rights. Now, the human rights is a very broad umbrella, and there were certain groups in society, stakeholders were saying, in the church as well, that some of the things that are incorporated in that, in the provisions there, could potentially force the countries to make certain decisions on lots of things that are very controversial still right here in our current sphere. Now, I think invariably we were told that, no, that's not quite the case. Governments will not be forced to do anything and that kind of thing. But we do know that there is a very large lobby of pressure on many different issues, whether it's gender and sexuality and discrimination. And so a lot of these things are there. We you know where we see it as well, caller. We have a serious problem. I mean, this is not to say that we didn't have a serious problem with women underrepresentation in the past and suppression of women's rights and all of that. We still have a long way to go as well. But when you look at the whole gender conversation, there's almost there's not really that much discourse at all about male underperformance. And the minute you mention male underperformance, you sometimes get a pushback about, but for so many years women have been been underrepresented and
but the thing about that, women don't seem to, that does strike a nerve with them, They're still not on that.
Well, and maybe maybe they will. That might be an issue that is inimical to the fact that they have been underrepresented in the past, and so therefore there's a certain level of apathy towards the current status quo. So maybe there's that aspect. So, but at the same time, we have in the Caribbean we have a real issue with males, right? But in that whole global conversation about gender, there's not really that much space to discuss that, you know.
Well, and we have that problem, and yet still, we don't see women being in the echelons that they could probably make more serious decisions on behalf of the countries.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So and that does seem to bother them that much, you know, in terms of the, you know.
Well, caller, we're going to have that conversation, continue that conversation. But thanks very much for raising it, though. Very, very important indeed. And have yourself a good one. And we wanted to touch on so many other issues today, but I guess we have the rest of the week, God willing, to be able to do that. Tomorrow, I hope I can touch on the issue of myths, St. Lucian myths, and things that we take to be true or have taken to be true, and as to whether they're based in fact. That's a whole other issue. And just to mention, to tease the mind a little bit, one of them is that, you know, Columbus discovered St. Lucia. Right? That was something that we were taught once upon a time. Columbus discovered St. Lucia in 1502. Another one is that we were, quote-unquote, 7 times British and 7 times French. Another one that we have out there is the Go-Pitot is in Choiseul and Piti-Pitot is in Soufrière. Another myth is that, and I've called them myths, but things that we take to be true, and as to whether they are in fact, Soufrière was the first capital of St. Lucia. So we're going to try to tackle some of these statements, hopefully, on tomorrow's program. Hope you can join us for that. I'm your host, Calixte George Jr., saying goodbye.